Hello and welcome everyone to this video where I'll be talking about the stock to flow model. This one here. Now, you've either heard of this or you haven't, and if you haven't, you're in for a treat. If you have, stay tuned. I'll go through a few key concepts. So what is stock to flow? Now, this is something used with commodities to look at the rareness of a commodity and basically does that impact the price. And it was discovered about a year or so ago. I can't remember the blogger or the individual, but it was found to be seemingly relevant to Bitcoin. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to this over the last 6 months, I'm going to show you something very interesting, right? So you basically take the total supply, which is the stock. And remember, the total supply of Bitcoin is not yet 21 million. We've been mining for about 10 years, but it will take, I think, almost another 100 years to mine the last Bitcoin. I think it was 2140 when they expect that. So you take the supply divided, the current supply divided by what's coming in for the period. And as that bottom number gets smaller and smaller, and of course, we've just had something called the halvening, and that's why people have been jumping up and down about the halvening. It's when the miners' rewards are halved effectively, right? And as that denominator gets smaller and smaller, the stock to flow model shows an increase in the rarity and thus the value of the commodity, in this case Bitcoin. Now, here's what will blow you away, right? If you don't keep track of these metrics and zoom out every now and again, it's easy to get negative. This thing shows that we're actually back on track, even though we had that coronavirus-inspired crash in March. And it's quite amazing. You see, if you just zoom in here, okay, and this is about roughly the last 12 months, you can see it's actually been on a downward trend. It was at 11, that was the 11,000, that was the peak in 19 when we had that mini rally, and plodding along, and then coronavirus, it literally goes red. Maybe it's infected. No, just kidding. That's to do with this. But it bounced right back up after the halving, and there was still a lot of negativity. So if you just look at this chart, you might not think much of Bitcoin. You might, if you're not a true believer and if you're not into crypto, if you don't understand the macroeconomic implications of Bitcoin, you might well think, well, could it be dead or it's not going anywhere? It's only when you zoom out, and we always are told zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. It's pretty amazing when you look at it like that. So remember, this is a logarithmic graph from day one, and you can see these cycles here. If you look at those cycles, I covered this in another video, but a lot of the famous YouTubers, the real YouTubers, unlike me, with actual subscribers, Bob Loukas, the Cryptoverse, Bob Loukas started the 4-year cycle, and the guy from the Cryptoverse showed us that these are getting flatter, so we expect the next one to be flatter and probably with less returns, although I'm going to dispute that now. I'll show you why on the stock to flow model, but still just a hell of a promising trend. This is still the once in a lifetime opportunity, right? And you will notice something very interesting. It basically follows and has followed this almost perfectly, right? To the point where many say this is it. This is the best way to predict Bitcoin's price. The reason Satoshi did the halvening is maybe this is exactly what he wanted. Maybe he was a genius that understood, amongst other things, stock to flow, looking probably at something like gold. Okay, and you see after every halvening the price goes up. Now if we dig into this, what this is telling us is that we will see that increase and then it will kind of flatten up, and that is at $100,000. And according to this, which has been very accurate, apart from the peaks, it goes up way above, and the bottom cycles. I'll show you another chart in a minute. pretty much in correlation. And we can expect this on the 26th of May. Let me just get the right date there. Somewhere in June 21. Just under a year from now. $100,000. I mean, imagine that, right? That's amazing. That's just, we're almost a year away. The 4-year cycle from some of these real YouTubers, unlike me, predicts that would be slightly out. So maybe what could happen, it could lag, and you see that. Actually, you do see that. Look here, right? It just lags under that, and from there, July 17 to, we all know, December 17. Who can forget it? That's about 6 months. 6 months off. So maybe the end of 21. And some people have said that the end of 21 is when we'll see this next cycle high. So there's some food for thought for you. The real exciting stuff is actually when we look at 2026, and if it does keep pace with this, you're going to see 10 times gains from about 10,000 now, well, it's 11,000 to 100, and then 100,000 to 1 million, and then from here that will be almost 100 times gain. So whatever you invest, and I am not a financial advisor, this is purely speculative. However, if I were a financial advisor and an actual YouTuber, I might say to you that this would be a good investment, right? Coming back to this, the other thing you'll notice, something that I've learned, is that when you have a period of a little bit of a rally, there's always a chance that you'll have a bit of a dip. And especially where we've sustained it now for more than a month. It's been positive for more than a month. And if you think, well, I don't want to sell, because sometimes you have these motions where it really shoots up, right? I'm not saying you should sell. Some of you would be interested in buying the dip. I think it will go down to closer to 10,000. I don't know if it'll go under 10,000 again. Just remember that when we had that real run in 2017, okay, it basically went as high as that for just a couple of days. That if you look from here, it was steady, but we really saw some swift movement. It goes up very quickly during those peaks, right? So I think that if you're looking to buy a dip, once again, not a financial advisor, I think there will be a slight peak, but this video is about this overall journey, and that's great. So what else can we say about stock to flow? So it essentially seems to have, and this is a stat that I looked up, about a 95% correlation coefficient with the price of Bitcoin. And many people use this to say, we're not sure about the $100 million valuation, even though this is saying it will get there. But we are saying that this could take us to $250,000 or $300,000. That's fantastic news. 20 or 30 times returns from a roughly $10,000 price. The gold guys have always used this, apparently, right? And so it looks like Bitcoin is becoming gold 2.0. I've covered this macroeconomic implications in my other videos, and I think it's going to be a reserve currency, a medium of exchange, a way in which governments settle balance of payments and all of those things, separate to just, I'm going to use it to buy a cup of coffee. So I've had that discussion in previous videos, right? So this is fantastic news, and I hope if you were worried, remember, we get hammered a lot. Apparently it was dead there. Let me just zoom in. I'm going to show this to you, right? Remember when we had that big drop in 18, hit 3,000, people said it was going to zero. 3,000 became the new normal. If you were lucky, you loaded up. Then we had the slow rally. Why? Well, the one reason now we know is that there is a correlation to this. 6,000 became the new normal. Some of you will remember it was in that 6,000-7,000 range for a long time. Then recently, coronavirus caused a drop, and I think for the rest of this year, the range is going to be between 10, 11 and about 14, right? And if we just get that another mini jump up, it could go somewhere there, 20, 25, 28. Some people are saying 28. We'll have a mid-cycle high. Let's see. Now, the other thing I mentioned in my other videos is that you should take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I called because of this, and we're seeing other cryptos do very well as well. Ethereum, I said that the last 6 months, well, we've only got August, September, we've only got 5 months left, are going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because there's a big difference in buying, if you were, from 10,000 to 25,000. Massive. And that's when people, if they get in at that stage, the average person can only really afford tiny amounts. Remember, if we go back to this, I mean, if it gets to $1 million, 0.1 is going to be worth $100,000. And I've said for years, in the very first video that I've made, 0.1 will be a significant amount. You won't even measure 0.1. You will talk in sats. Max Kaiser said we'll be talking in sats. Nobody will actually talk about Bitcoin. So all of this is positive, but I think now it's really getting to a stage where the average person has to accumulate or really lose out. And I said in my last video, or the one before, I can't remember, get what you have to before governments and institutions and the big guys who have millions of dollars go in and grab. And we're starting to see that. So this week I saw this billion-dollar software firm, MicroStrategy. So they make BI software. I'm obviously very familiar with what they make. It's a competitor to the likes of Power BI. Suppose it's decent, but they're not the biggest company, but they're quite big. And they obviously cash rich, like a lot of these tech companies. Now, where do you store the cash? The dollar, by the way, is being devalued, and that was another thing. I should have had it ready. That was another thing that what came up this week, and people are saying, you basically the stock market's going up because the dollar is weakening. That's one reason the stock market's going up. So they don't want to keep this in cash. They're looking at alternative assets. They're looking at gold, and the real interesting thing was they mentioned specifically Bitcoin as an option. This is one company that mentioned it. Here's another article. Near zero interest rates, so you're not earning anything. Infinite helicopter money, right? Printing. The specter of coming inflation. This is terrifying. I don't live in the US, so my currency devalues against the dollar, which now is itself being devalued. People like me, we're getting hit twice. Of course, I'm going to look at something like Bitcoin. That's why I said in another video, people in emerging markets seem to know the value of things like Bitcoin more than the average person in a Western country. And they basically made a statement, right? It wouldn't be prudent to continue to hold a large portion of USD. Well, I mean, if you have 250 million, that's crazy. So Bitcoin, gold, and other alternative assets, there might be another crypto there. I don't know. And this thing didn't load. It's because the dollar is devaluing. So the point I'm making is get your crypto. It's a real tough time. People don't have jobs. I know that you may not have money, but if you have, as Ferris Bueller said, I'm going to end the video with a Ferris Bueller quote, right? Let's find the man himself. Okay, Bitcoin. I don't have to look up the quote. I know it. Highly recommend that you pick it up if you have the means, right? I'm going to leave you with that thought. So listen, hope you enjoyed that. Do what you have to. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor. Since I'm a nobody YouTuber, just hit like and subscribe, and those 1 or 2 extra likes. It actually doesn't do anything. It just makes me feel good. Okay, guys, I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed that. See you very soon.